Hi, everyone. Welcome to Living Earthlings Podcast. I am Seti, your host, and my pronouns are they, them. Today, I am joined by my friend Malik, who's a total liberation activist. That's what they use to best define their intersectional activism. We will be discussing veganism in Tunisia, that's where we're both from, and in the Maghrebian Arab world. This episode is divided into two parts. The first one will be us talking about how veganism is evolving in the Arabic speaking countries. And the second will be a part dedicated exclusively on arguments in Arabic on why you should consider going vegan or lowering your meat and dairy intake. Don't worry, I will make sure that everything is translated into Arabic, French, Spanish, and English and post these on my website to make this more inclusive. But first, I'd like to welcome Malik and let them introduce themselves.
Hello. Okay, so thank you for the introduction. That's very sweet of you. My name is Malik. I'm 27 years old, if that matters. It's just a number. I'm originally from Tunisia and living in Germany. I've been living here for 8 years now, and I just finished my master's degree in electrical engineering. I've been vegan for almost 7 years now, and yeah, as Harry said, I am a total liberation activist. That means that I don't only care about non-human animals or human animals. I care about all animals, including human and non-human. So that's the best way to describe it, I guess.
That is very important because not long ago, there were some people who were trying to focus only on animal liberation and not really on human liberation, which was not really intersectional and not really inclusive of all people. So it's really important that you talk about also human liberation in this movement. It is very, very important to talk about. And I'm glad more people are coming in this activism talking about both of these matters intersectionally. So I wanted to ask you previously, you mentioned that privately, you mentioned that you came to Europe 8 years ago and you just mentioned that you started your vegan journey 7 years ago. So that means that you were already in Europe.
Yes, I was already in Germany.
Were you considering veganism before you came to Europe, or was that something completely new?
Actually, I've never heard, or I hadn't heard of the word vegan before. I think I heard it only once, but I didn't really think about it. I'm just gonna say I hadn't heard about the word vegan before going vegan, and the way I went vegan is just I read an article on Facebook, or I came across an article that had the word vegan in the title, and I was like, "What's this word? I have never heard of it before." And then I clicked on the article, and just like an aha moment, it was like, and then
Did you
um,
instantly go vegan or did you
it took
start?
me 30 minutes. Like
Oh, okay.
I read the article, it resonated with me, it made that click. I had some questions like, but protein, but we need animal, blah 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 to survive. So I just did some research, and I decided right away that I'm gonna turn vegan, and I've been vegan ever since. But just to give it a little bit more context, the person who shared the post was actually from Tunisia. So this person had a crush on a vegetarian person, then they wanted to impress them and to tell them, hey, like I care about what you care about. So they started sharing all of these articles, but it was always about vegetarianism. And I was like, yeah, vegetarian people don't eat meat because they have digestive issues. I've never thought about ethics or whatever. And then that one day they posted something about veganism, and here I am. And
Or he changed
they
you without
they've
wanting to.
yes, and the thing is they are not vegetarian, they're not vegan. They made fun of me for going vegan,
Oh wow.
and
Okay,
not
so
in a nice way.
they were the reason you went vegan and then they made fun of you. That was weird. So I imagine that already being outside of your family, not living with your parents made everything easier. And already being in Germany, since there's more accessibility for vegan food. Well, I don't know about 7 years ago, but I know that today it is more accessible than in Tunisia. Even though you lived in in Germany at that time, and you still do live there. How did your parents react to you going vegan? Because it's quite of a cultural shock. I mean, because even though veganism doesn't come from European ideologies and values, veganism comes from African tribes and indigenous tribes. It is something that is mostly white centered. It's badly done. Capitalism has profited from this movement. But my question still is, how do you? Because I imagine you went to Tunisia in the past 8 years or 7 years. How did your parents react when you told them?
Yeah, I think we should dedicate, as a movement, we should dedicate so much time talking about the impact of capitalism and imperialism and colonial times and so on, and what do they mean now for this movement and for the whole world, especially like if you see it from a total liberation thing, because the animal industry and is not affecting only non-human animals. But to respond to your question, well, first of all, 7 years ago, not like soy milk wasn't even accessible like it is nowadays. Back at the time, it wasn't that big of a thing. Um, but now, sure, yes, like you can find vegan things everywhere. I mean, I live in a very conservative city, but still, like you can find lots of vegan options. Actually, my parents and my family took it quite well, surprisingly. I mean, I said, because I went vegan on the 13th of January, so the end of January, and then the first time I went to Tunisia afterwards, I think it was in March, so like not even 2 months after. And I told my parents, hey, I don't consume animal products anymore. I don't want to wear leather or fur or whatever, like everything about veganism, not only food, but also entertainment and all of that. And they asked some questions, like, why do I want to do that? And what about proteins? What about this? And they saw that I had some answers and that I was well prepared. They weren't trying to convince me otherwise. They were just trying to understand. And when they saw that I know what I'm doing, then they were like, sure, whatever. And I mean, I told them before that, before going home, so they were
You
already
were
prepared for that.
preparing
Because
them emotionally.
like my mom is Tunisian, so like she has to cook food and whatnot because
Yeah, a lot of
yeah, her son
food.
is coming back and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I wanted to eat her food and I didn't want her to cook some food that I'm not going to eat, right? So I told her before that. And so she prepared. I mean, the Tunisian cuisine is very vegetarian friendly, and it's only vegetarian because they use eggs. So if you don't use the eggs, then you have lots of vegan options, like
Yep.
the numerous sort of kinds of shakshuka you can make.
Oh yeah.
Let's start with that.
It is
So you
vegan
have
friendly, but it's not stomach friendly.
because it's hot or what? I mean,
Yeah,
because
it's
it's
very
spicy.
spicy. Yeah.
Well, I love spicy food.
Okay, that's on you.
The
That's on
spicier
you.
the better. Yeah. So and my mother, I have to say, like she became creative.
Oh,
She's
creative.
become Yes, she's become very creative with vegan food, with Tunisian vegan food, and she veganized so many traditional dishes where you say like you cannot make it without these animal based products, but she makes them, and then you realize it's actually about the spices, not the actual animal products. So yeah.
That's awesome that you had a supportive mother. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely. When it comes to that, they are quite supportive, my family. Yeah.
because I know how important it is for them food. I
Mm.
have a Tunisian family myself. My dad's part of the family. We're a big family. And my grandma, who passed away last year, she was very not like upset, but she was as I said, culturally shocked. She thought it was something that white people did. Uh, uh,
Okay.
and she thought it was a phase. She only believed that I would do it for not ethical nor environmental reasons, but for my body and my health and whatever. But it's not the reason why I became vegan. That's actually, I became vegetarian for environmental and health reasons. I became vegan
I
for
see.
ethical reasons.
Well,
So
that's for me. I cannot really tell what was the reason that made me go vegan, because that article was a comparison about comparison of non-human animals to human animals, and how it doesn't make sense for us to use non-human animals. And it was more of a philosophical approach, let's say, with a little bit of biology. But then I discovered the environmental effect and the ethics and the health benefits all at the same time. And I
mhm.
watched Earthlings at the same night. Um,
You tortured
so
yourself the first day as a
I yes,
vegan.
I watched Earthlings by myself at night in the dark. I don't ask me why I did that, and I'm not a fan of horror movies or anything.
Me neither.
And I watched that, and I was like, okay, like for these three reasons. And then for a long period of time, I was vegan, and I didn't know why I'm vegan. Like it wasn't like I was questioning my veganism. I was still vegan. I did and everything like the way I still do it right now.
It was a
But
rational decision for your in your opinion. Like it was just
absolutely, it rational. Okay, it was also very emotional.
okay. Yeah, after you
Um,
watch Earthlings.
Yes, and then when I started doing, because I started doing online activism after that, but it was more like, yeah, you can be vegan and it's so cool. And then I started doing street activism, and I was seeing it, like experience it by myself. That was very hard. That was like a wake up call for me, and that was the moment where I said, okay, now I know why I'm vegan. And when I say I am, like, there are lots of emotional reasons for me to be vegan. One of the biggest reasons for me is I know what it means to be discriminated against. I
Mhm.
know it. Like, I am a fat queer person of color. I live in a very white in a very white surrounding, so I know what it means to be discriminated against. And I have to say, I am very privileged as well. Like I'm not I know that I'm privileged, and still I know what it means to be discriminated against. And that was, I don't want to be that same oppressor for someone else.
I
And that's
understand.
why I'm working on all of the other discrimination that I grew up with, that I have. Like I am unlearning the sexism that I grew up with, the anti-Semitism I grew up with,
Mhm.
um, also the homophobia and transphobia I grew up with, even as
Yeah.
a queer person. So and also speciesism. So that's maybe for me now, that's the reason why I'm vegan. And sure, yes, because of ethics, but it's very emotional, and that's valid.
Yeah, of course it's valid.
Yeah.
What I wanted to talk to you about is also your activism, because I saw a lot of videos of you going on the streets, even in Tunisia, which I was very surprised and very proud of, to be honest, of you going in the streets of Tunisia and talking about veganism and how
Hmm.
people can go vegan and why they should go vegan for many reasons, for health reasons, environmental reasons, and ethical reasons, and even emotional
Hmm.
reasons, just like you. um
Yeah.
but what I wanted to say first is that my veganism was not intersectional at all. When I started it, it was very ableist, it was very classist, it was very racist. At first, I saw veganism again as people see it today, a white thing, a white people thing to do. So there's a lot of proof of environmental racism, and there's a lot of proof of how capitalism is racist, extremely racist. It's profiting off oppressed communities. So at first, when I say that I wasn't intersectional in my words, is that publicly I used to compare people's oppression to animal oppression. So it's okay in a way if I do it to myself. I compare my suffering to animal suffering, and I try to connect myself to the animals, saying that I wouldn't want to be hurt like they are. I wouldn't want my mother, my sister, my whoever to be hurt like they are. So why am I paying for their suffering? I wouldn't compare people's suffering to animal suffering anymore, but I used to do it. I used to use very problematic words that used to hurt a lot of people around me.
Mm,
I'm not going to mention them because I would have to do a trigger
no,
warning.
no, we're not gonna say that. But I think I know what you're saying, and I wasn't sensitive. Also, when I first starting that, I was like, look at the animals; they are suffering so much, and even though I am being discriminated against, that's nothing compared to what these non-human animals go through. And then I would meet people on the street, and they would tell me, yeah, okay, but I do not have money to to get food. What are you, why are you talking to me? And I'd be like, no, you are also responsible for that. Everyone is responsible. But now, after, like, I started doing street activism in September 2018, so it's been like 2 years and a half now. And then during these 2.5 years, I learned a lot. Like, I would never say that, because I know now how, for some people, okay, like, plant-based foods are cheaper than animal-based food, but we are talking about fresh food. If you take a can, like a canned meal, that's
Mhm.
still way cheaper than fruits and vegetables. And it's not like a reason for people not to be vegan. It's more like, let's also fight poverty, because when we fight poverty, we can also um, help the not help, because we're not doing them a favor, but also fight for non-human animals. And these are some things that they should be aware, that there are some other things that are related, the other sorts of discriminations or problems that we have now that are related to this matter. And yeah, I don't use these things anymore, and I'm rethinking my activism very much at the moment. What is more effective? Is it really effective to go to the street and talk to people about veganism, and make them go vegan? Does it really help the animals? Or is it, let's do some campaigning and, I don't know, close the Belvedere, for example? There is a campaign at the moment, done by the youth climate youth Tunisian youth climate, or
Yeah,
something
I
like that.
it's about veganism.
It's about closing Belvedere, which is a zoo in Tunisia.
Oh yeah, I saw it this morning actually.
Exactly. So, is it that these are the questions that I'm asking myself at the moment? What are the strategies that I should use as an animal rights activist and as a total liberation activist to go a step further towards total liberation?
There are a lot of people that are asking themselves that question since the coronavirus and we're all inside. Some people used to go to protests, and the fact they're not going to protest anymore due to COVID, they're feeling like they're useless, that their activism online is useless. But actually, we're we're trying our best and with what we have and how we feel and where we are.
Mm,
If you feel like one day your animal rights activism on the streets is actually helping you and helping people go vegan, then I don't know, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. And if another day you feel like online activism is how you feel the safest, then I'm not going to stop you doing that either. So I think it's up to you. And I want to tell you that you have an impact on me, a positive impact on me, and on 3,000 other people that follow you, and hopefully more in the future that stumble upon your content on YouTube or on Instagram. It's really refreshing to see a Tunisian person talking about veganism in Tunisia and outside of Tunisia. Speaking of activism in Tunisia, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about going on the streets there and talking about veganism, because for most of them, it's the first time that they hear it, the word veganism. For them, it's most of them. I'm not talking about all of them, but most of them, they're the first time they're considering having a diet that doesn't include animal products. So, what is the difference between, I'm not sure if you've done this, but I think you did. But what is the difference between going on the streets in Germany and talking about veganism and going on the streets in Tunisia?
First of all, thank you very much for your sweet words. I really appreciate what you said, and yeah, hopefully I have an impact on some people, and I'm also having impact from other people. It was also very heartwarming to see that there is another person like you that is also doing this. That was very sweet to see. Um, I mean, I only went once on the street in Tunisia and talked to people. Like, I filmed what I said, where I talk to strangers, let's say, about veganism. But in Tunisia, I talk a lot about veganism to also some friends or some friends. Um, and I have to say, the only difference in my experience is the language that I speak here. German, and then there I speak Arabic. Like the same approach, the same or very similar arguments that people use there. They are used also here, but that's my experience. I also have to say, I'm from Susa, which is also quite like a city in Tunisia. So lots of educated people, and by educated I mean the standard way of education.
Yeah.
Lots of students also. So it's also a very touristic city. So it's a no. Let's say kind of open-minded city. So when you talk to people about that, they're probably are gonna be more open than if you go somewhere where it's more conservative. I'm
Yeah.
just assuming. But yeah, I didn't feel like a big difference. I had some people that were very open. I had some other people who told me that they're gonna kill me because I used the word kill and and not slaughtering. It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
joke. It was a joke, they said. But so yeah, I didn't. There's no big difference. And here I also talk to lots of Arabic people, and it's sometimes they are receptive, sometimes they're not. I mean, yeah.
My dad was very, very supportive of me going vegan. It was my mom who was mostly shocked, who's a Spanish mother, but she's a bit more conservative in that. Um my dad really, really doesn't care about my diet as long as I'm healthy, as long as I am taking care of myself. He doesn't really care about as much as my extended family about what people say. But it was a different story when I went to Tunisia, because I decided to go first vegetarian when I was in Tunisia. We were at Hard Rock Cafe in Sousse, and they had this vegetarian option. It was, I'm so sorry, but it was so disgusting. But I was but I still thought that it was very interesting that we had a vegetarian option in Tunisia, labeled as vegetarian and not as, just
Nothing.
a thing without animal products. So I said I was on I was on holidays, so I went there for 2 weeks. And I said, you know what? Like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it out. But I did have, because funny you mention it about the difference between the word kill and اذبح, which
Slaughter. Yeah,
slaughter.
yeah.
Slaughter, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In a halal way, as they call it. I mentioned this to the uncle, the husband of an aunt of mine who is very conservative. And he said, why are you vegan? And I was like, oh no, man, I don't want to start a conversation about this. Because honestly, there are some people you really don't want to have this conversation
You
with.
don't have to. You don't have to talk to these people about it.
Yeah,
It's
but
just risky.
it feels like, so I choose not to.
Let me tell you this, and everyone who's hearing this, if you choose not to talk about animal rights with certain people, you're not failing the animals, and you are respecting your boundaries, respecting your limits, and
You're
even if
protecting
you start,
yourself.
absolutely, if you start like I do it, it's something that we also need to learn when we do these outreach events. If at some point you feel that the other person is somehow not receptive or is hurting you or whatever, say, like, I'm ending this conversation. There are lots of other people that you can talk to.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I didn't want to be rude because they're part of the family. So I said, like, I just don't eat I don't eat food that involves the killing or the torture of an animal. So, and they said, well, it's not the same killing when you اذبح an animal. And I'm like,
Mm,
aren't they both dead in the end?
it's a form of killing.
It is
It's
a form
just
of
it's just
killing.
another it's just another word. It's just like there are different, like, different ways or several ways to describe killing.
It I think the word halal in our society culturally, I'm not going to speak about religion in this podcast, but
Mm,
culturally, I think it is a way of making yourself feel better about killing an animal. So it's mostly about yourself and not really the animal, because you're at the end of the day they don't really care if you kill them in a way or another. They're going to be dead in the
that's a very interesting point of view. I've never seen it that way, but yeah, I see it.
So yeah, I think that talking about it in Tunisia about veganism is up to you, and if you don't want to, as you said, you don't have to. You have to be feel comfortable about your words and about how you use them and how and the conversations you're having and with which people, because I know that sometimes when you engage in a conversation and you're being violent, or when you're using words that they don't understand, or you're not comfortable in that conversation, you can make them feel like they're even more right than before starting the conversation.
Mm,
So you're, instead of helping the animals and helping the animal liberation and total liberation activism movement, you're actually pushing them away from it if you're being violent. So yeah, I think that I don't see many vegan activists in Tunisia apart from you. I know vegan people in Tunisia that are on a whole foods plant-based diet, which is something that I don't think I could be on for a long time. So I eat vegan processed food. Vegan processed food is, if anyone doesn't understand the word processed, is food that is meant to smell, taste, and look like non-vegan food, but it is actually vegan. For my mental health, since I've been through a lot of things in my life, I don't think I could restrict myself from eating certain things. But since I'm a vegan, ethical vegan specifically, I have the option, I have the accessibility, I have the option, and I have the privilege. Yes, I have the privilege to be able to eat these processed vegan foods. But 5 months in Tunisia have been a struggle for me. And because I was used to having this processed foods diet here in Europe. So it was a
mm.
bit challenging, but I was very inspired by this person that I saw on Instagram who put up recipes like your mother of Tunisian, typical Tunisian food that was veganized.
Lots of people, especially in this vegan movement and the plant-based movement, maybe it's something else, but in the vegan movement, they are promising people that you are going to have great health when you are eliminating animal-based food from your diet. And first of all, it's not about that. Let's start with that. Veganism is not about that.
Mhm.
Um, and there are lots of things that contribute to health more than just food. I mean, yes, it is a big part of it, but it's not the only part of it. And there are so many things that you have to take care of. You have to educate yourself. Whatever you're eating, it doesn't really matter the way you are eating or your diet. you should take care of that. So let's put that aside. Talking about veganism in Tunisia, well, I don't live in Tunisia, so I don't think I'm the right person to talk about that. However, my approach to that is, um, we have lots of great foods in Tunisia. When we talk about grains, when we talk about fruits and vegetables, when we talk about nuts and seeds and all of these, we have so many things that we don't know that we have in Tunisia. And because veganism nowadays, as you mentioned earlier, is very white centered and is very like there is this European or Western kind of um, core in it. When you go online, and then you wouldn't type وجبة نباتية, you would type vegan food,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna have some recipes from the US or from Europe, and
Hmm.
these are different cuisines than the Tunisian one, right? So I am I, I am a person that says, work with what you have. If you have all of these variety of food in front of you, why are you looking for this way of eating that is not really ours? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And instead of trying to replace things, when you replace meat with fake meat, or when you replace dairy milk with plant-based milk, maybe try to do something else with what you have.
Mm.
This is my approach to it. But again, the longest I stayed in Tunisia while being vegan, I think it was like 3 weeks or something. So
Okay.
who am I to talk? But I know so many people that are vegan in Tunisia, and they have been vegan for years and they are doing it. Yes, they say that, oh, I would like to try that cheese, and I would try to try this burger and whatnot, because yes, it's tempting, but it's not available to me. Doesn't mean that I cannot be vegan, doesn't mean that it's hard to be vegan. Also, something that I noticed in Tunisia, for the especially the first years when I was vegan here, and like there were these vegan restaurants, and as I said, even like in the city where I live, there are over 1 million people, so it's supposed to be a big city. It's quite conservative, so you don't find vegan options everywhere. And when you ask them, they're like, what?
Yeah.
And even when you say, can you please change this, take this ingredient off, and then it's going to be vegan, they don't want to do that. But in Tunisia, I experienced it. I experienced situations where I was like, wow, this is so amazing. Like, these people are so generous. Now I feel like I'm talking like a white tourist in Tunisia. And in Tunisia, like, I can go and tell them, hey, can I have a tuna sandwich without tuna? And then they will do it for me. It's just like,
Also, can we talk about the fact that I previously mentioned that veganism has been capitalized here in Europe and in Western
mhm,
societies.
mhm,
When you go to Tunisia and you ask for a tuna sandwich without tuna, they give you the cheapest option, right?
mhm,
When you go to Tunisia and you ask for something to be only vegetables, so for example, a sandwich with vegetables instead of meat and fish and tuna or whatever, they say, okay, well, we don't have on the menu a specific price for what you're asking for, but we can give you the cheapest version, and then we're going to take away the meat and the animal products. Here, the same exact sandwich would be more expensive just because it's labeled vegan. For me, for as I said, I'm from Mastir, so if you go to one place because you know it's clean and you know the people or whatever, or you like the food there, when you go the first time, they're maybe gonna be surprised by your demand, but then the second and third time they just know what you want, so they're gonna be nice about it. They're not gonna be pissed about it. Not like here. I think what I experienced here in Brussels is that for some restaurants that are not vegan or don't have vegan options yet, when I ask something to be vegan, or if I ask if it's vegan, if I go the first time, they're going to be nice about it. The second, third, and fourth time, they're going to be pissed about it. They're going to like, oh, every time you do this. And in Tunisia, they're trying to be more friendly and they want you to come
They
more
don't care.
often.
I remember once I ordered a tuna sandwich without tuna, and then the person was like, "Ah, come on, I cannot give you that. That's like
It's
nothing."
just
And I'm like,
bread.
"That's okay. I'm very happy. Like it. Let's have a moment and say that the sandwich was full of stuff. Okay, like lots of
Exactly.
steamed
But they don't see it
vegetables,
like that.
salad, that grilled salad, and whatnot. And then the person told me, okay, I'm just gonna give you the double amount of fries because
That's
otherwise,
awesome.
and I'm
I'm
like,
jealous.
okay, then I'm not gonna pay the cheapest price. Let's go to the second one because I felt also kind of bad, but the person
Yeah.
was like, I don't want to give you this. I'm like, please give it to me.
There are some vegan options in Tunis, in Tunis Lasma. New restaurants that opened up. I don't know if the food is good. I've never been to those
Mm,
restaurants, but I've seen two new restaurants in Tunis that are either 100% vegetarian with some vegan options or 100% vegan. If I can remember the names, and if I find the names, I'm gonna put them on the post where I'm gonna translate
that
everything.
would be great. Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't want to sound like I'm a doctor or anything. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about diseases or anything. I know, and I want to highlight this, as you said, veganism is not going to cure you from whatever you have. Maybe it's going to help
Mm,
you feel better, but it's not going to cure you. You need to seek medical help if you have a problem. Don't go on crazy vegans on Instagram or social media telling you that if you do this, then you're gonna get better.
yeah.
No, no.
Or these lenses.
For the person that I follow on Instagram and that you do too, I see that veganizes Tunisian foods is called, the Instagram is plant-based Tunisian, so that's not very difficult. You follow
Oh,
them.
okay. Mhm.
She makes vegan options with what she has around her because, again, there are not a lot of vegan options in Tunisia. Vegan options, I mean fake substitutes.
Mm,
But there are a lot of vegan options, as in fruits and vegetables and legumes and all of that that you need
yeah.
to be vegan, that you really
And
need.
they're medical students, so that's also interesting
Yeah,
to see.
that's
Yeah.
awesome too. Yeah. So again, it's plant-based Tunisian for, I'm just doing a little plug for her. So if you are Tunisian and you want to try out Tunisian foods, typical foods that usually are with animal, that contain animal products, and you want to make them for the Eid or Ramadan or whatever you want, or on a daily basis, if you want them to be
Mm.
vegan, then I think you should follow them.
And
Uh,
follow us, both of us too.
yes, I'm gonna put the plug too. So you
Yeah.
are, I don't want to get this wrong. It's a dot Tunisian dot vegan. So a Tunisian vegan, you'll find them.
Yes.
And for me, you already know probably, but it's Sari, so Sari, and then Hellara, Hellara. Again, I'm gonna write
Mm.
everything down, and I'm gonna plug you whenever I upload
Mm.
everything.
It would be
I
interesting to see since becoming vegan, and when I go to Tunisia, like I don't buy cosmetics, for example, or like I don't know, shampoo or whatever, and that's something that I think would be more of a struggle than food, because like now if you want to have a cruelty-free shampoo, now there are some companies that do
oh yeah,
that. I also checked a couple of these, and they one of my highlights is about that. So now you can find some vegan, cruelty-free options, but it wasn't the case in the last years. And then I either had to bring my own shampoo with me from Europe or like use the not cruelty-free shampoo because that was the only option available.
yeah.
But that would be, I think, more interesting than food, or more challenging food. And then talking about clothing and whatnot, I think that wouldn't be a big of a problem. And entertainment wise, we need to close that zoo in Tunisia. That's so
I think we
unfair
need
for
to
the
close
animals.
that zoo in Tunis and also the Friqiya and so many others. If we trying to get people to be more like sensibilize, I don't know if that's a word in
Yeah.
English, but people on about veganism, and not only about veganism, but because it's not a pleasant trip to go to zoos, to be honest. I think the last time I went to a zoo was I was vegetarian, but I wasn't aware of how zoos worked and all of that. So when I went to a zoo in San Diego and I saw it, and it's supposed to be one of the best in the world, they have a huge variety of animals in enclosed in super super small areas, and I thought, this is the last time I'm going to a zoo. I was very happy to talk to you about this. I also wanted to hop on the second part of the episode where
Mm-hmm.
we talked about a little bit about everything now in Tunisia, whether it's veganism, whether it's accessibility, whether it's diet, whether it's a lot of things we discussed. We also gave a lot of insights of what to do, where to who to follow if you want to veganize some of the Tunisian foods. I have to say there are some vegan options that are already vegan that you don't need to veganize. I think you talked about,
Leblebi.
yes, a macaroon, right?
Yes, makrooth.
Macaroon are
Yes.
my favorites.
I
I,
can understand that. My mother is from Qurwan, so I get the best ones.
ooh,
Yes.
I am jealous. See, I am jealous.
Yes.
I need to.
FYI, makrooth is a pastry made of it's basically fried dough filled with date paste.
Oh, it's
Super
amazing,
yummy. Super
honestly.
yummy.
Oh yeah, so I wanted to say also something about what I said before, so I don't get so people don't really so understand what I mean
Come
and
for
not
you.
no, don't come for me, please. I mean, if you want to say something educational, then I'm very open to listen to you. But if you're here to bully me, please don't. So what I wanted to say is that about veganism and why it's a good option is for me is because I used to eat mainly animal products and very little vegetables. And what I meant by being vegan is not only closing your door to animal products, but it's also opening up to a lot of variety of foods that you didn't hear of. Although I'm not pushing anyone to eat anything and or not eat anything, I'm not an expert. I can't say eat this or don't eat this. This is better for you. No, I did my own personal research and this is what I'm doing. But if you want to do your research, I really highly recommend. There's this book called How Not to Die by a doctor that I can't remember his name. I'm really sorry about this. But he talks about how veganism doesn't cure you, but helps you because you're opening yourself up to a variety of foods that you usually don't have. So if you're not going vegan and you're just lowering your intake on animal-based products, it's called How Not to Die, and it's by Gene Stone and Michael Greger. In case you want to read it, I have it.
It's
So what
kind
I
of the Bible for the plant-based food
exactly,
diet,
yeah,
I think.
I even have non-vegan friends and non-vegetarian friends who have read the book and said that it really opened their eyes into understanding how the importance of having a variety eating a variety of foods. I think we should hop on to the second part of
Mm-hmm.
this episode, which is going to be very exciting. I'm going to give you like 15 to 20 minutes if to really speak out about why you're vegan in Arabic, why people should consider going vegan, and why they should at least try to lower their meat and animal based in general